Hello everyone and welcome to Leonora AstroTarot. I am so happy to have you join me here today for this reading. I know that there are a ton of videos out here on YouTube for you to click on, so I'm truly very happy that you choose to click on mine and spend some time with me. So today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different reading from what I've done before. We're going to be asking for advice from your future self. So your older, wiser self, 10, 20 years in the future, wherever you are, we're going to be looking for some channeled messages. I'm very curious about this reading and really excited to do it for you guys. You can, if you would like to have a personal reading with me, the info is all in the description box below. I do personal tarot readings. I also do astrology readings if you're interested in exploring your chart and your transits, your personal horoscope. Everything I offer is down below. Yeah, I would love to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed this reading, do leave me a comment in the box below. Do like, subscribe, notification bell, all of those things. Very much appreciated. My channel is still pretty new, so all of that stuff is, really, really valued. Okay, so enough of that. Let's get to this reading. Today I have 4 groups. Number 1 is the Quartz, number 2 is the Pyrite, number 3 is the pink Tourmaline, and number 4 is the Amethyst. Go with the, usually, as soon as you click on the video, right, your eye will go somewhere. Trust that initial pull. If your eye is going to more than one pile, then trust that too. Maybe there's other messages in other piles. As ever, these readings are completely timeless, so if you're coming across it a year later, trust that pull that's sort of making you want to click on something. Yeah, like all of my readings are completely timeless, even the ones that are sort of seem time-stamped by the moon or what have you. But this reading is a little bit different. But I will leave you guys for a moment to pick your pile, and I will see you in your reading. Okay. Hi, pile 1, and welcome. You picked the clear quartz, and this is going to be a little bit of a different reading from what I've done before. This is the messages from yourself in the future. So imagine yourself as old and wiser and much more experienced, and let's see what they have to tell you. Let's have a look at the cards you got, pile 1. We have the Queen of Wands at the head of the read. We have, interesting. So we have a black rectangle. Haven't seen that one before. The Veil. We have the Commander and Perseverance in reverse. Okay. The Page of Cups. Spring. The 5 of Cups. The King of Wands. Evolution. Your animal spirit here is the kangaroo. Interesting. We have Scorpio as an astrological influence. We have courage, and we have the scythe. Let me just check out this frame, make sure that you can see everything. Pile 1. Okay, let's get into this, shall we? I think I'll just shuffle everything down slightly so you can have a better sense of these cards. The Queen of Wands. Oh my. What does your future self has to say about advice? Okay, well, pile 1, you don't know your own power. There you go. Let's start there. Your future self is coming through to tell you that you just don't see how much you sparkle, and even if you feel pretty good about yourself, even if you have been feeling sort of creative and personally popular and all that, it isn't about the external things. I think your future self wants you to know just how much you have inside of you, just how much you are capable of growing into yourself and your own vibrancy, and how much better and better you will feel about yourself over time, and how much you will grow in confidence. Many of you, I think, do have creative abilities, and you know, learning to really stand, you know, confidence is something in the Queen of Wands. It's learning to have confidence in your creativity. Your future self wants you to know, if only you knew how much you were capable of and how good that will feel. It will feel for you to really let yourself shine. It's like your future self knows that there's so much inside you that should be seen and celebrated, pile one. But it's all about letting it be seen and having the confidence to let other people see you in your full sort of beauty. One thing that's coming through to me, your future self wants you to know, they sort of wish that you would be willing to talk, to be more open to other people, to talk to more people. That's coming through to me. To be open to so many more people around you. I think your future self wishes that perhaps they had been more open to the possibilities of others. Maybe you, as you watch this, pile one, are a little bit more introverted, inward focused than the Queen of Wands typically tends to be, and your future self wants you to know how much there is out there for you, how you shouldn't hide away, how you should have more faith in others to see you for who you really are, that you don't have to hide, that you don't have to keep parts of yourself to yourself, that if you really let yourself be seen, you will also be loved and admired and celebrated as you are. And maybe you've had some struggles with that, pile one, with perhaps, you know, lack of confidence, shyness, or just feeling a little bit closed off and separate from others. It's really strongly coming through to me that your future self wants you to talk to people, to be open to people, to have faith in other people. That's a really important message that your older and wiser self has for you, pile one. So please, yes, trust it. Know that there are many potential supporters out there for you, potential friends, collaborators, people that will want to be on your team. But just know how much you do shine and you are capable of shining. That's a lovely start. So let's have a look at this mysterious rectangle. You know what is coming through to me again? That your future self wants to know just how much is yet that you don't know that you're capable of. There are parts of yourself, pile one, that you haven't yet explored, and your future self, it's like this hand is reaching into this black mysterious box here, that there is so much up your sleeves that you have yet to really discover and that you wouldn't even imagine is there. And it is there, and it's waiting for you to reach into yourself and explore it. There are parts of yourself that you just don't even know yet. And my goodness, it's like there could be anything in this box, right? But perhaps, you know, as where we are right now in the present, there's a mystery around potential or possibility, and it's very much about you, about what you're capable of, pile one, and your future self is asking you to reach into that box. There are things that haven't occurred to you, things that just you haven't dreamt up yet. Just know how much of that. So when you find yourself in these loops of feeling negatively or losing interest in things, know that there is just so much that has yet to even occur to you, or possibilities that are yet to open up, that, you know, you're not ready for them yet. This rectangular mysterious box is that way for a reason. You're not ready to see them, and you're not ready to reach into it, but know that you will be, and that there is so much. Sometimes I think as time passes and we reach certain milestones, we get older, we think, oh, I'll never, we sort of, it's as if our options are narrowing and possibility is narrowing, and your future self wants you to know that that's not the case, that it isn't going to be that way or feel that way. Life is going to become more open and richer, and there are going to be possibilities that you could never have dreamed of when you were watching this reading. What a great future self you have, pile 1. The veil. Oh wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, what a curious card this is. I think your future self wants you to know that you have been almost stepping up to sort of the edges of yourself, this veil like a curtain, and trying to look to the other side, and at times feeling very, very uncertain about the way ahead, and also about yourself, pile 1. Know that there are some things that, you know, is just part of being human, right? There's a certain confusion and mystery about the future and the unknown that there's no way around. But your future self sort of wants to say that there are certain things inside of you. Like it's you're trying to get to know yourself, pile 1, and it's like you're up. I'm imagining this as if like you're looking at your own reflection, and sort of your hands are placed on your own hands in this misty reflection, and you're trying to see yourself clearly. Your future self wants you to know that don't try and see yourself in the eyes of others or the eyes of the world. If you want to see your reflection, close your eyes, go within, and get to know yourself in that way. Do not let other people tell you who you are. Your future self would like to say, let them tell you who you are. Let me tell you. No, I'm just messing with you. But if you're trying to figure yourself out, know that the best way and the quickest way and the most authentic way to do so is to go within. Don't let the world tell you your potential. Discover it for yourself within. That's what your future self wants you to know at the moment, the commander. I think your future self also wants you to tap into your own sense, I want to say courage, and courage had already come out, but your own sense of power. Your future self wants you to know you are more powerful than you know. How you express that power. You may have not had the most positive templates in your life in terms of really expressing a sense of authority and personal power. You may struggle, some of you, with a temper, things like that, or frustration, or just not knowing how to vent your frustration, or really there may be a fear of being overpowered that is rooted in the past and may have been rooted in things that were sort of ways people express themselves to you. But your future self really wants you to tap into your true sense of power. They want you to know how powerful you really are, but to learn how to express your power in a way that is gentle and compassionate, and how to express self-respect without, you know, we earn respect by, we get respect from others, you know, from respecting ourselves first. And your future self really is urging you to tap into a sense of self-respect, and to know that one, no one is out to get you, and no one is trying to get to you, that they won't get to you. Your future self, like, if there's some sense of fear or threat on others, know that you are safe and protected, Paul 1, but also that you are strong and powerful and brave. But how you express that, your future self wants to know that expressing that courage and bravery in a way that is loving, and, you know, enforcing your boundaries with self-respect is an important lesson for you, because people may not have always treated you that way, and that may be a struggle for you. Perseverance in reverse. So oh, we're talking about your future self, pile 1. So perseverance is sticking things out, right? Being in it for the long haul. I do think your future self thinks that despite look, we all get kind of stuck in a moment, right? We mistake our moments for being forever, like an eternity, but they're not. And your future self just wants you to know that although it's hard to imagine, your life is going to present you with so much. You will go through so many different phases and eras and moments. There's just so much, and they want to remind you not to drown in these difficult moments. They say you have a tendency to get extremely overwhelmed at times by momentary circumstances that are in fact very transitory, and even though you may have experienced similar things before, it's like every time they happen, you sort of drown in them, and you allow them to think, oh God, everything is going to shit now, like everything has gone to hell, and they haven't, and it's not like that. It's your future self wants to urge this sense of don't mistake what the particulars, the qualities of a moment for being your forever. Everything is just passing. All things are passing. Let them pass, and try and have more patience with your frustrations. Okay, so let's have a look at this kangaroo, pile 1. Courage. Oh my goodness, I didn't see that. We have courage twice. Ah, serendipity, right? These cards know. If you're curious about how I select the cards, I sort of meditate. I take your crystal, your quartz, and then I shuffle the cards, of course, like normal. And you know, if you read yourself, pile 1, you know, sometimes the cards are very generous with you and just fly out, and other times it takes a while. But know that I'm always reading the spread blind, and I haven't seen the cards beforehand. This is the way I sort of like to do it. So yeah, the courage thing, that's purely the spread knows what it wants to say, right? So the kangaroo, a very light-hearted sort of creature. So courage, yeah, your future self keeps wanting to reinforce this idea of how of your own strength, your own power, and getting on your own team, and really knowing that you have a very, very deep well of strength and personal power. You have a lot of courage there, and if you feel like you don't, know that it is there for you to tap into. It is right there. You are so much more brave than you know, so don't tell yourself otherwise, says your future self. And if you find yourself at the time of this reading in particularly circumstances that look very tricky and look like they're unending, like you can't see a way out of them, or it's like, what does the future look like, because I can't see how a way out of this situation, or it just looks like a kind of sentence in some way, know that your future self has been through this and knows that you have the courage to face whatever circumstances you are having to face. This message is coming through so strongly. We have it in 2 different cards. Know that you have an abundance of courage, pile 1. And the way this kangaroo is bouncing, this kind of resilient bouncing back that's coming through, you will get through whatever it is that you're facing, that you feel like you can't see a way through. You will, and it will be hard to imagine what it will look like at the other end, but your future self knows, and it looks like this Queen of Wands. It looks like you are in your own power. Yeah, and there's something here about taking a lighter approach and sort of bouncing, like the kangaroo is such that those leaping movements that the kangaroo makes, it's like just moving with courage, bouncing, like from move one step at a time through this. You can handle this, you will handle this, you have handled this, says your future self. Okay, wow. So some of you, yes, may be Scorpios or have strong Scorpio placements in your chart. But one thing that's coming through to me here from your future self is not to hold grudges. You won't feel good about it if you do. Forgiveness is an important lesson for you, Pile 1. Scorpios do tend to hold on to hurts and brood on them and internalize them, perhaps more than other signs. So if you have that tendency, whether you're a Scorpio or not, your future self is asking you to, if there are people in your life that you are holding grudges, know that in the future it won't seem worth it. In the short term it might feel like your pride, to preserve your pride, that you should give people the cold shoulder, or your future self is saying it doesn't feel that way the long term. You may come to regret maintaining grudges, or it's all about that kind of short-term satisfaction versus sort of the long-term. You know, you might have had a short-term reward for something or felt that you had the upper hand in some way, but in the long term your future self is saying it doesn't feel that way. So do be aware of any people in your life that perhaps you've sort of struggled to forgive or something like that. Let's have a look at spring. Your future self does want you to know that if you have been in a difficult period of time, if you've been going through something, this struggle that it's been hard for you to see a way out of, know that you are very close to a kind of renewal and a rebirth. A period of spring is all about things growing again, right? And your future self is letting you in on that you can expect a kind of period of healing, or you've done a lot of work, Pile 1, and you've been through a lot, and you can expect sort of the rewards, or a period of, I want to say, just sort of ease and softness that is coming your way. The Page of Cups, yes. I think your future self wants you to, what was coming up before was a sense of, your future self wants you to talk to people more and to be more open and trusting of people, in fact. But they also want you to know that, again, there's something about openness. The Page of Cups is sort of offering their cup and is often the messenger, right? They want you to express yourself more, to put yourself out there more, to offer more of yourself. Again, there's this sense of being a little introverted and holding yourself in quite a bit, Pile 1. And your future self is really urging you to offer more of who you are to the world. That you won't regret having done so, that they really want you to share who you are with others. That's, yeah, Five of Cups. This card speaks of regret, and let's have a look at this. I do feel that your future self wants you to know that some of the things that you're dealing with right now, the struggles, there is a dawn that is coming with this spring, but it's almost as if you might feel right now, Pile 1, as if you're very close to, you're still in the midst of really working through a lot of pain, and your future self can see the other side of it. And they can see right now that you're still, it's almost like you can touch this, or you're still sort of in the grips of the past. They can see the other side. They can see your ability to transform and sort of grow a new skin. But this incredible orange sun, we have these two orange, things are opening for you, and you are very close to almost turning a page or turning a corner where these things that have really held you back and held you down are gonna just start to sort of just, they're not going to go away, because life, I don't think that that's what these things are. If they're wounds and they have something to do with early life, it's as if that there has been some pain and challenge, and you've been in the midst of really facing it. But it's as if you're going, it's not going to be able to touch you and affect you in the way that it has done. It's like it's loosening your grip, its grip on you, whatever this past pain and struggle is, that you're very close to reaching this point, a new kind of era, a new kind of dawn, spring time, where you're gradually going to start moving away from that pain. And yeah, there are some wounds that never quite go away, sure. I think your future self just wants you to know that you will have a different relationship to that pain and those struggles, but you're just very close to, it's as if you have been climbing a hill for a long time, a mountain, what have you, and you've been on the upward climb, you can't quite see the top, but your future self can. And they want you to know how close you are to seeing the other side of something, which is an incredible message. I think they also want you to know, we have the king to the queen here, which is lovely to see counterparts on the table, but they also want you to know that there is, if you have felt unsupported, there is support that is on its way. That these flowers here, it's like as you reach this sort of, as you move away from these harder times, it's as if, oh gosh, this King of Wands is giving me a real vibe. I love this. This is called the Painted Tarot. I'll list below all the info, but I'm loving this deck. These flowers, yeah, it's like there's an offering. I do think that will be, if you find yourself single when you're reading this pile one, I do think there is a offer will be coming your way in future. I can't tell you, I don't really deal with time frames and prophecy and all that on this channel. Sorry if that's what you're looking for, but I don't really like to do that, because I don't know, it's different. These are general reads, so it's I think really important to just take what feels like it's you're all living different lives, basically. I do think there will be support coming your way. There will be a new kind of emotional rebirth that will happen, I think, with that yeah, it might feel very hard for you from where you stand to imagine, but for your future self, it's very normal to feel supported. It may not feel that way for you at all, pile one, as you are watching this, but for your future self, it's very normal. It's a day-to-day thing, and that they are supported and very loved in their life. There is a lot of love around them, and that's just normal. The days in which they were sort of going it alone and having to be their own support are gone, but they are also, your future self is also very able to be very supportive of others, is very able to, because of how much your future self has lived through. It's like, I mean, we can tell already that your future self is a wise one, part one, that she has lived through a lot, and you may still be living that lot that, she has lived through, right? You may still be in the thick of that. But I do think you are coming up to an interesting turning point in your life, and I think that's what your future self also has to tell you. But there will be a lot of love around you that's coming through very strongly. Some of this may come in the form of this King of Wands that is really giving me this puppy dog vibe of being very sort of oh, just a very loving, somebody that really sees you in all your Queen of Wands glory and beauty, and thinks you are it, basically. But there's something about this Page of Cups card too that I don't know, pile one, whether you are somebody that has kids or has an interest in kids, but I do think that some of you that pick this pile are very maternal, and that may be something that your future self is sort of hinting at, this capacity, this great capacity to love that you have, that you haven't really been able to share. They want you to share and open parts of yourself, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you will become a parent, unless that's what you want, of course. But your future self is just sort of saying you have a lot of love to go around, and in the future you will have a lot of opportunities to really share that love, whatever that looks for you. Some of you, it may be becoming a parent, others it could be more creative. Either way, there's just people around your future self, and that's very beautiful. There's just a lot of love surrounding them, which is something that I think you, Pal One, should know, because perhaps you don't feel that way or haven't felt that way. I think you have had to have a lot of courage, and your future self is acknowledging that you've already displayed a lot of courage, and it's like there are rewards coming for your resilience. The blue and red is sticking out for me for some reason. I don't know why I'm thinking of the French flag. There's something to do with France is coming through to me. I don't know if that's resonating, but yeah. There's so much, these buds too. There are so many things. I just think your future self is trying to express to you how much life has waiting for you. Maybe you will take many incredible holidays in the south of France. I don't know. Something like that. I don't know. Could be. Lucky you if that's the case. Maybe that's where your future self lives. I don't know. Maybe. Evolution. Yeah. Your future self, wants you to know that you are on the right track. For all of this potential to come to fruition, you are on the right track. You are not lost. You are not in the wrong place, even if at times it feels that way, that you've regressed or you've sort of taken the wrong turn. Your future self wants to know that in the grand scheme of things, that's not the case, that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, and you're very much on the right path. In fact, you're very, very close to seeing a lot of rewards for your courage and for your resilience. The scythe here, this is a little bit of a sinister card, but what is coming through to be most is a sense of division, of ending, that you will start to feel as you move into this new phase of moving away from some of early life pain and struggle, of a real sense of then and now. Your life, says your future self, will look very, very different from the way it does now, and there will be a very, very clear before and after sense. And there's something about the period of time you're in now that is like this very clear before and after. There was things that you have gone through before where you are now, and like now you're in a transition period, and then the rest of your life is going to be like this after what happened now, and it's going to look very, very different. In the best sense. Your future self wants to know that you have had to let things go, and you may have to let more things go, but that's okay, because there are things coming in, beautiful things coming in, but there are still things that I think you have to untangle yourself from, and part of that might feel like a bit of a sort of sharp slice. But you're the one in control here. You're the one in the driver's seat in terms of making these decisions. your future self is telling you, though, that there are more things that you have to leave behind in order to have the potential of the future come in for you. Wow, what a lovely reading, pile one, for whoever this is. Let's see if I can get any more messages from your amazing future self. Let's just have another look at this Five of Cups. I think another thing, I mean, the Five of Cups always does speak to a kind of mourning energy of grief, of loss, and your future self wants you to allow yourself the time, if you feel like you've been through a lot of loss, and there's still things that are sort of falling away, or things that you're having to let go of that feel quite painful and quite stressful for you, your future self, pile one, wants you to find the time, or give yourself the time to really feel that. You may experience a lot of fear and anxiety around potential losses, or just the experience of going through major change and transition. Your future self wants, within that, rather than this fear and anxiety and letting that come to the fore, to give yourself time to grieve certain senses. Or I think it has something to do with security and perhaps some, there's early life issues that you've been dealing with. Your future self wants you to give yourself the space to grieve, to mourn, because there is sadness. There's difficult things that have happened here they have been sad, and it has been painful, and that's okay, and you can let yourself feel that pain. You don't have to run away from it. In fact, that if you run away from it, it's still going to be there. And your future self doesn't want you to have to carry this grief into your future. They want you to, let yourself feel it and unburden yourself a little bit of this past pain. Sometimes you do have to work through things, and sometimes even years later things can come up, and your future self wants you to know that too, that things that have happened in your life, there are things that, yes, you will carry them throughout your life. It doesn't mean that they're these great burdens and heartaches. It's just, but it doesn't have to be with everything. There are things, like there's this real strong sense of there are things that you can leave behind. But if you're leaving things behind, be sure to grieve them as they go, even if you really want to let go of these things, even if these things feel as if they're weighing you down and have been for some time. To grieve those losses, yeah. I just want to have another look at this Page of Cups before we wrap this up, pile one. I think your future self, pile one, wants you to know, again, there are parts of yourself that you just don't know yet, and it has to do with love, with your capacity to love, and how that will kind of allow you to reimagine who you are at a very deep level. For some it could be parenthood, for others it's like there's just parts of yourself, that things you haven't done yet, things you've tried out, creative ideas. It has to do with love and nurturing. Your capacity to love, you haven't seen it. It's like you've just seen like just a small percentage of the love that you will feel and experience in return. That's a lovely message. That couldn't be more lovely. And that's something that you're going to be learning in the coming years, is all about love and connection to others, and the many kind of forms that love takes. there's so much like that you just haven't seen yet. Pile 1 says your future self, and it's just like, again, this urge to be open, to other people, to share yourself, to offer yourself. Don't hide yourself away, says your future self. What a gorgeous, lovely read. Thank you to your future self, and thank you to my cards. I do want to thank my cards. I love every deck that I work with. They each have their own personalities. If you read yourself, you probably understand what I'm talking about, but they always know how they, it's like the deck just knows how to play its part in the reading. But this was a lovely reading, and I hope it resonated with you, and yeah, do let me know if it does. Leave me a comment down below, and it was a pleasure, and I hope to read for you again sometime, Pile 1. Okay, bye. Hello, Pile 2, and welcome to your reading. You picked the Pyrite, and today we're doing kind of a different reading for me. We're looking for advice from your future self, so your older, wiser self. We want to know what they have to tell us, so let's have a look at your cards, Pile 1. We have the King of Coins, interesting. We have the Eight of Birds. We have Unconscious, Sacrifice, Synchronicity in reverse, the Page of Wands, the Wild card, the Ace of Wands, Vulnerability, and that's the Two of Pentacles. So we also have your animal guide here is the Raven. Your astrological influence is the third house. We also have Ritual and Animus. Okay, interesting. All right, Pile 2. Let me just check. You can see everything. Let's bring things a little bit down here so you can have the best view of everything, and let's get into this. Okay, so the King of Coins. First off, what I'm getting, that your future self wants you to know that if things lately have felt chaotic and as if it's like everything around you is moving and crazy and unpredictable, know that peace is on its way, and stability and strength is on its way. What you're experiencing now is a sense of almost like growing pains, or it's like there's all these moving parts that are inside of you and they're bouncing around and nothing has settled, and your future self wants you to know that they will, and they will settle in a way that is very calming. I mean, there's this lake behind on this card, and your future self wants you to know that if you have experienced a lot of chaos in your life, if you have felt the world to be an unpredictable place, that it won't always feel that way. And I don't mean that in a kind of boring a boring way. I do get the sense that, Pile 2, some of you have experienced a lot of felt as if things haven't been in your control, or as if you might at times have felt powerless, that some of you may have had to move around a lot, other people's choices and other people's lives have affected your own in ways that you could never influence. It felt like you weren't the driver of your life. That's what I'm trying to get. Your future self wants you to know that you will feel as if you are in the driving seat. Maybe you're not there yet, but your future self wants to express to you, Pile 1, a real sense of peace that is on the horizon for you. That, peace and the sense that of comfort, and predictability isn't the right word because that makes it sound a bit like drab, but it's more like security, and the kind of stability that you may have lacked is possible and is on its way to you. There may be a process that you're in right now and things that you have to go through before that shows up, but your future self wants to know that that is what's waiting for you, a deep sense of peace and the sense that you are the driving force of your own life. Nobody else but you, that you are sort of in control, but not in a kind of, not in a controlling way, not in a kind of that you have to have this constant grip on everything. Simply that you have your own money, you have the ability to make your own choices, you are not beholden to anyone, you have a sense of security and freedom, and you earned it yourself. That is what your future self wants you to know is waiting for you on the other side of a process that I think you're very much in, pile 2. So let's have a look at this unconscious card. I think your future self wants you to know that there is still so much that you are unaware of, or that you haven't explored in yourself, and they want you to know that one way to start this process, if you feel you haven't already, is to look to your dreams, is to meditate, is to find some still time with yourself in order to delve into the unconscious. It's like there's messages there that are waiting for you that could help you in this process of development that you're going through, pile 2. It's like they're waiting there, these little pearls of guidance and self-knowledge, but it's like you're not picking them up because you're not looking within. And your future self wants you to know, wants you to do this and to develop ritual. Ritual came in. Develop methods and practices. If you haven't already, then to deepen those practice. I mean, if you have already, if you do already, for instance, have a meditation practice, to deepen that there's more there. There's more that you can do with it. But there's these pearls of wisdom that are waiting for you to claim them. And you will find if you're able to sort of get your hands on them, that it will make this process that you're going through, this process of change and transformation that you're in, much smoother. So that's a strong message there, I think. For some of you it may be meditation. I don't know why music just came through to me. If some of you may feel that you use music as a way to explore your subconscious, and if that's true, then your future self wants you to grow that, to grow into your intuition, and to trust things that are happening. If you feel like you're sort of going through a bit of an awakening process, to trust that and know that you've just touched the tip of the iceberg, that there's actually so much more there. So if you feel like you've actually come a long way with that, know that there's still much more there. That your future self, wants you to know is waiting for you to claim. They do also want you to know, and I was picking up on the sense of stability being very important to you, and feeling like you haven't. So this 8 of birds, so that's like the 8 of wands in the traditional deck, there's a tornado here, and you may feel like you, pile 2, are in the eye of the storm and have been for some time, as if you have never known peace, you have never known security and stability. Your future self can see from the perspective of these birds that are around the tornado. They can see the clouds, the mountains, they can see outside of the storm. And they want you to know that there is a life outside of the storm that is waiting for you. There is this very dreamlike, still, lovely lake. That energy is sort of, it's like, I want to say birthright for some reason, it's waiting for you. It's owed to you because you have endured so much and you have lived through so much chaos, and there has been so much uncertainty surrounding you for so long. It isn't a permanent forever state. Your future self is on the other side of that, but I'm being directed back to the unconscious card, that a lot of this storm, although it may feel like it's been external circumstances beyond your control, there's always an interplay between inner and outer circumstances, right? There's always a reflection that's happening when we're going through certain things of our inner state and our beliefs. And that's why your future self really wants to direct you towards your unconscious, because there's information there that can help you, to help you move through this storm. The Sacrifice card. Love this deck so much. It's the Prisma. Is it Prisma or Cosma? I think it's the Prisma Visions deck. It's by James E. Reeds. I love this deck. Love the artwork. Yeah, there's a hand here that is reaching for another hand, and it's so close but it's not yet touching, which, you know, seems to me that your future self can sort of wants you to know that you're very close to, if we imagine this storm, that you felt like you were in this sort of chaotic eye of the storm for a while, there's this hand is almost touching the other hand, but it's like it's so close but not quite there. And there's this sort of more paler monotone colors here, and then over here there's all this color. I think your future self wants to know that change is coming, and that the things that you've been waiting for are closer than you think. In fact, they might be very close. It's as if there's finishing touches in terms of development and moving through a process that have to do with the unconscious. Sacrifice. I'm not sure that the word sacrifice itself, or the idea of sacrifice is coming into play here, but I might come back to that. So synchronicity here is in reverse. You know what? I do think so. Your future self is wanting you to trust your intuition, and if you've been going through a kind of period of spiritual development, and perhaps that's caused some confusion, perhaps it just feels like another thing that's spinning around you that's creating a sense of instability, your future self wants you to know that you can trust your own inner guidance, and sometimes that may come to you in the form of signs and synchronicities. And there are synchronicities that you are experiencing that you're not noticing. Again, with the unconscious card, I was getting that it's like there were these pearls of wisdom that were just waiting to be claimed by you, pile 2. And your future self also wants you to know that there is guidance around you, but you're not always noticing it. Perhaps you sometimes are, or perhaps you don't know how to interpret it, but it's like there is guidance and support that is around you that is trying to, you know, whether you call it guides or angels or what have you, but like is trying to convey and to support you in this period of change and chaos, and to help guide you out of it to a more calm and stable place. But it's like you're not always picking up these messages, just like you're not necessarily picking up these unconscious pearls of wisdom. You're much wiser than you know, pile 2. Your future self wants you to know. It's like you haven't claimed certain parts of yourself. You haven't acknowledged or seen the depth of this, of how great a capacity you have to connect with your higher self and sort of just the currents around you. It's like you've only just started to touch that tip of the iceberg, and your future self wants you to know that it goes very deep, and you have the capacity to go very deep and develop in a very strong way in terms of whether it's sort of your spirituality or psychic abilities even. Your future self wants you to know there's so much there, and there's still things that you're not quite seeing, that are happening around you, that are things trying to guide you. I'm drawn to this raven now. Wise woman, there you go. Your future self wants you to know, yes, that you have a lot of inner wisdom, but it feels quite untapped at the moment. It's as if you're having all these experiences and they're happening very quickly, and you have yet to have the time to convert them into knowledge, into a deeper kind of knowledge, but a change is coming here with the Raven. You will be learning how to do that. You may feel at the moment like you are kind of walking blind through something. Things are changing around you. You're growing every day. The moon cycles here are quite significant too. So if there's a way that ritual, if you could incorporate, if this is something that you don't do already, incorporating the moon cycles and creating rituals around the moon cycles might be a very beneficial thing for you, pile 2, in developing your sense of intuition and wisdom and your sense of self. Some of you may be Cancers or Cancer rising too, so the moon may be very, very significant to you. Either way, a change is coming and things are really developing and brewing beneath the surface. Either way, your future self just wants to really express this sense of peace. Some of you may just have lived quite tumultuous lives up until now. Your future self wants to know that it isn't always going to look that way. There is going to be a lot of peace around you. We have the 3rd house here as the astrological influence. So this is Gemini's house, so it's like one of Mercury's house. This is all about thinking, communicating, the intellect here, it says. Language, of course. So some of you may have ambitions in this area. Some of you may have a desire to write, or at least to communicate something. And if you are someone that has a very rich experiences and has a lot of wisdom, or you're in that process of sort of really developing yourself in that way, and you have ambitions or ideas about about communicating these things, or perhaps writing about them, your future self wants you to know that this is a good idea. It's a great idea, and to trust it, and to know that you're very, very capable of achieving these goals and these ideas, these dreams. Your future self wants you to know you can do it. Go ahead. You will be very surprised to know what you are capable of. You're also much smarter than you know. I think you don't always, pile 2, have enough faith in your own intelligence. And you're a very smart person, pile 2. And your future self wants you to know that you are really very capable in that area, in this 3rd house area. Some of you may be looking into education, whether it's learning more or actually teaching, and your future self wants to encourage all of those potentials. Of course, it'll be different for those of you that pick this pile of what that might mean to you, but either way, the future self is directing you towards 3rd house Mercury type pursuits. I would also add that the 3rd house often has to do with community as well. So being very active in your community, working with others in your sort of immediate environment. So the Ace of Wands. I think your future self thinks that you have a tendency to hesitate quite a bit, and sometimes it does have to do with your sense of, there's a real sense of changeability around you and not knowing what you can rely on and what you can't. And your future self wants you to know that you can rely on yourself. That yes, we can't control some things. There are things beyond us, and we can't control what other people do. Your future self does think that you should try to be more trusting in others, but that stability is coming through so strongly for me, like that your future self also wants you to work on your root chakra, rooting and feeling grounded. If you feel like you live in this tornado of chaos, that this is something that needs work, feeling more rooted as you move through this period of change, and knowing that you can rely on yourself to provide nourishment, the things you need. Sometimes you don't trust. There's an issue there of trust, but it's also directed towards yourself. It's as if, because so many things have changed around you, Paul, you've struggled to get a clear sense of yourself because of all these moving elements, and your future self is telling you you don't need to look to others to provide you with security. That's a very strong message, that you can provide it for yourself, that you can develop a sense of strength and stability within yourself, within your own life, and that you will and are very capable of doing so. Wild card. Yeah. I think, yes, your future self wants you to know too that yeah, it's like you've lived a very unconventional life, or there's something about you that it's very unconventional or different. Your future self wants you to know that some of these things, you may have felt like the odd one out often, pile two, throughout your life, as if you don't quite belong here. Sometimes you may have struggled to really kind of embody your wilder side or qualities, and your future self wants you to embrace every part of who you are, even the stranger parts and the unconventional parts, that you will feel more fulfilled and more connected to life and to others if you allow yourself to be completely your authentic self. I think you have a beautiful kind of rebellious like part of you, as much as you feel there's chaos around you and sometimes things are changing beyond your control. Within that, it's like you've also learned how to kind of embrace a sense of freedom, or let go of certain expectations, and there's something very non-judgmental about you, Pal, too. You know what it feels like to kind of find yourself in the eye of the storm, so you have a lot of empathy for others, and that empathy is something that your future self wants you to invest in some way, to focus on, to develop. You may already be very developed in that way, but your future self almost wants you to follow that, that you have a lot to offer in that way, and people will want to, perhaps you've had unconventional life experiences, and that's very interesting to people. You have a lot to share, and I'm brought back to the third house intellect. There's a way, it's like you have messages that other people are going to want to know, to hear, to receive, and your future self wants to encourage you to have the faith and confidence to put your thoughts into words, into action, and all of that. We have the Page of Wands and the Ace of Wands coming through, so for some of you, Pile 1, it's as if you may have ideas brewing in the midst of this change, things that you want to pursue, ideas for your life that you are contemplating. Your future self wants you to know, as you make these decisions about what is next, not to fear the unknown, to not play it safe, to go with what you really want. It's that Rumi line coming through to me, you must ask for what you really want. Don't go for plan B, don't play it safe. Strangely, a rejection of safety or a willingness to be a little bit wild and reckless may lead to a greater sense of stability. And you can't see that right now, but your future self can. Your future self wants you to know that you know where you're going, but you do have to trust you are capable of achieving what you want to do, Paul, to whatever your dream is, and that may involve a sense of risk or taking, feeling your way in the dark. Your future self wants you to know that you will never regret pursuing your dreams, however unlikely they might seem, or however kind of risky or out there, your future self wants you to. This card is almost like reminding me a little bit of the Fool, because we have this character on the precipice of the cliff. Your future self wants you to know that it's okay to take a leap of faith, that you know more than you think you do. Tap into your unconscious, tap into your guidance that is around you that you're not always seeing as you make these choices, because you can't go wrong if you make them from that deeper place. Vulnerability here. I think, again, your future self wants you to know that whatever you have been through, you have an extraordinary well of compassion and understanding and this very non-judgmental approach to other people. They want you to know that this vulnerability is a kind of gift, and you should never feel as if you may have been told, you may have been told, Paul, too, that you are sort of weak because you are emotionally expressive, and this is nonsense. Your future self just wants you to know how this vulnerability you have and the way you're in touch with your feelings is an incredible gift, and because you're able to do that, because you're able to be open rather than closed off, many things will come to you. People are drawn to that, and people will be able to be vulnerable with you as well, Paul, too. Like in being open-hearted, you draw other people of a similar kind to you, and perhaps those people haven't quite found their way into your life yet, but they're coming. They're coming. And let's have a look at this Two of Pentacles. One thing your future self wants you to know, that if there have been people in your world that you felt have doubted you, have questioned you, have left you questioning yourself and your ability to do things, your future self wants you to know that if there's somebody that is like a voice in your head, a kind of naysayer in your head, whether they are physically in your presence or not, they have a presence in your mind. If there's someone like that for you, pile two, your future self wants you to see this person's vulnerability. You have a strong sense of empathy, pile two. So you have the ability to tap into and understand people, even if they've perhaps not treated you well. And there is someone, I think, that's coming through to me in your life that perhaps has treated you in a kind of a harsh or critical way, and it leads to a lot of second guessing for you and going around in your head a lot. I think your future self wants you not to take this person so seriously. Wants you to know that they don't take this person so seriously, or perhaps it's a tendency which has to do with sort of going around in these loops and self-questioning and all of that. Your future self wants you to apply your incredible compassion to people that perhaps have, been a bit of thorn in your side at this time, at certain times. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't have boundaries with them. You should, but your future self just wants you to kind of look at certain tendencies within yourself as not really being, that aren't very helpful, as just being almost kind of, they were placed there by other people. So a tendency to be overly critical of yourself and also of life, to constantly second guess or sort of look for kind of the negatives in things, to leave behind things that just aren't yours, just because other people are being that way around you or have been that way. It's just, none of us are islands, and people rub off on us, and that's the sense I'm getting here, is that there may have been influences in the way that you think and the way that you think about yourself that are unhelpful, and your future self does want to encourage you to let some of that stuff go. Ritual. So I mean, I was already picking up about the moon phases. Sorry, I have to change my position here. I was sitting in a weird way. Your future self has something to say about eating that's coming through, about the way you eat, to be mindful about nutrition and things like that. And rituals of all kinds. So eating, in a sense, can be a ritual, a part of a ritual in our life, and perhaps being more mindful about things like that would help you if you have had certain problems around eating. Your future self just wants you to be more caring and nourishing. Perhaps sometimes you forget, you skip meals or you forget. And it's so important for you to nurture yourself in order for you to grow into them, basically. Pile 2. So it's food and it's nourishment of all kinds to be really nurturing of yourself, and ritual of all kind. So that can mean different things to each of you. Some of you it may be sort of doing new moon, full moon rituals. For others it could look slightly different. Rituals can take many different shapes, right? I think some of you do have creative practice of some kind, and writing was already coming through, in communication and language with the 3rd house. Your future self wants you to develop practices. So whatever these dreams entail, your future self wants you to be almost ritualistic about it, to develop just patterns and routines that seem meaningful to you. All of these things are things to help you grow into the person that you are going to become, your future self. And your future self is encouraging that, to create some structure. Isn't so much the word that I mean it is about ritual, meaningful ritual. So meaningful patterns that allow you to get in touch with yourself and your dreams and your creativity. All of that is going to help you shift out of this more chaotic sense that you have been feeling. Pile 2. Let's look at this animus. The inner masculine. Interesting. I do think that some of you have had problems with, security was a big thing that has come through in this pile, and feeling safe and feeling like things are changing so quickly. Some of you may have yet to really feel like you could truly open up to someone, or that there was a very solid offer for you in terms of love, relationships. It's a siren coming. Wish it well as it goes where it's going. Yeah. Animus. Yeah, you may have felt, Paul, too, just as if maybe trusting others was also a thing that's come through. It's like, is it possible to have a stable and loving relationship? Your future self wants you to know that it is, but it will require work and moving through. There's a silhouette here. So there's this, it's like your future self doesn't want you to know too much about that part of your life right now, because they want you to focus on moving out of this more chaotic turmoil, this stage of change and transformation you've been going through. But they do want to say that it absolutely is possible to have a very loving and stable relationship, but you do first have to have a sense of stability within yourself. You do have to work your way through this whirlwind you're in. And perhaps some of you are starting to move out of that, or feeling like you are moving past some of this early life turmoil. Your future self does want you to know that there is great potential and possibility in that area of your life, but it will require you sort of developing a certain trust in yourself and in life, and developing yourself in certain ways. It's almost like in order to unlock this animus potential, you have to sort of get A to A. It's like you're at A right now, and you have to get to sort of, I'm seeing that more at E. So it's like there's these marks, there's these points that you have to reach that have to do with internal development, and also about your personal pursuits and dreams, before that part of you can be really activated. But your future self wants you to know that it will be, and that there is great potential there. It's just they don't want to say too much about that right now, because they don't want it to be your priority right now. There are other things that are more pressing. So yeah, all right, future self. Yeah. I'll take that for what it is. We can't know everything about the future. We're just looking for advice. So far, the future selves, I've done 2 piles, and so far the future selves are very forthcoming with advice and information. So this again has been a really lovely read. I'm just going to see if I can pick anything more up from this spread. There is something here with the 2 of Pentacles. I feel like I haven't. It does have to do with the influences of others in your life, and creating boundaries with other people, and also knowing your own mind. Your future self wants you to learn to trust your own mind, and to have better boundaries in terms of knowing what you think and what you believe, and distinguishing this from other people's attitudes to life, like not adopting other people's attitudes to life. Let other people think what they want and do what they want, sure, but know what is yours and what isn't. And some of the times these things can be unconscious. People just sort of creep in there, especially when we're talking about family members and things like that. And I am getting this vibe here, but it doesn't have to be. Your future self just really wants you to develop a real trust in your own sense of what is true and your own values. And it may also, the wild card, also, your own thinking, politics that's coming through, like what you think, to trust what you think and let go of other people's stuff about what life is for and what's it about and what you should and shouldn't do and all of this stuff. Let yourself be this wild and I think slightly rebellious creature that you are, Pearl, to, and let go of other people's judgments. To thine own self be true. I think you can't get better advice than that, Shakespeare. But yeah, I do think that message has to be reinforced to sort out your own beliefs from the beliefs of others, or the beliefs that you were maybe raised with, and allow yourself to be. Maybe there are things about you that are a little bit unconventional, and that's cool, you know. That's perfectly all right, and to own that. And for those that don't want to get on board with them, leave them to do what they want to do. But know that you are your own perception is very valid. You are valid. Your perspective is valid. You do not need it to be confirmed by others. Learning to trust that. That's what your future self wants you to know, that you can trust that. Your perception of things, even if it seems a little off kilter or different, it's valid. And you trust it because it will take you where you want to go, to an authentic life, and a peaceful, authentic life. What a lovely message. want to thank your future self, Paul 2, or selves, for coming through for us today. And I want to thank my cards. This is something that I love all of my decks, and they each have their own character going on, and I want to thank them for showing up and participating in this so that we can have these messages. I do hope this resonated and was helpful in some way. These readings are intended to provide, guidance and clarity, all that, but of course, take what you feel is meant for you. Yeah, so thanks, Paul 2. It was a pleasure to read for you, and I hope to read for you again soon. Bye. Hello, Paul 3, and welcome to your reading. You picked the pink Tourmaline, and today we are doing something a bit different. I am looking for advice from your future self, so your older and wiser self. I've done some beautiful readings so far, and I'm sure this will be no different. So Paul 3, let's have a little look about what your future self has to tell you. So we have the Queen of Swords here. We have this interesting green spiral. The Three of Lotuses. This Supra deck, the Oracle deck, which I love, has some interesting cards that are sort of unnamed. So the Protector. Oracle. Okay. We have the Nine of Cups. Attachment. The Knight of Wands. We have a Sun. The Five of Swords. Your animal spirit here is the cat. Always welcome cats around here. Your astrological influence is the 10th house. And we also have build and cross. Okay, let me just check my frame here so that you can see everything. Okay, so let's get into this, pile 3. The Queen of Swords at the crown of your reading. I think your future self wants you to know that if you have been through some difficult times, pile 3, I'm drawn to this tree here, that they want you to recognize that all of this was necessary for you to truly become who you are, and who you are supposed to become. So this tree, there's something about roots. So things may have been tough, you may have had early setbacks, but all of this is part of your roots that are going to allow this extraordinary growth and flourishing to occur in due time. So your future self wants you to know, without revealing too much, just how much they have. It's interesting because I've seen a lot of these quote cards with the crown, of course, but the crown has never quite come through to me in this way, and it's like your future self, Paul 3, wants you to know just how good they're doing. And for some of that may be sort of also in terms of finances, if that's was something important for you to know, Paul 3, that your future self is comfortable and protected. There's this sword here sort of coming across this building, that you are protected and that you are safe. That's an important message, but also that whatever has happened, whatever is potentially happening in your present, Paul 3, it will all make sense in the end. It all makes sense from where your future self is. It may not right now, but it's almost like everything sort of has to happen the way it is happening and has happened in order to, almost for the best possible outcome, because there's something really great about where this Queen of Swords is sort of your future self is, that can't reveal too much, okay? We can't know too much about the future, but we can know some stuff. So interesting. What's going on with this green spiral? I think what your future self wants to express. It has something to do with salvaging something or salvaging things, or it's almost like retrieving from a kind of, you know, what's coming through to me is almost like there's the sea here, so it's like you were on a ship and the ship sunk and you had to struggle to survive, but there was something precious that you were carrying in your cargo and you saved it. It's like this hand beneath the water is like, well, I'm half drowning, but I have my precious thing. And that's something your future self really wants to draw your attention to, that you have salvaged what is pure and meaningful and what really matters, even though you may have experienced some amount of loss in recent times or in the past, that you have what you need to survive. That's a beautiful message. So 3 of Lotuses, so this is like the 3 of Cups, and interesting that we have people on boats here. What I'm getting is that your future self wants you to connect and reach out to others that have been through, it may have been there's something particular that happened here. There may have been a particularly tough life circumstance. Your future self wants you to know that you are not alone, even though you may currently feel that way, but that you may benefit a lot from trying to seek out the company of those that have been through something similar. So yeah, I'm getting the sense that if there's something particular, or there's something about your experiences, pile 3, that make them, they might seem quite unique, but there is a similar sort of theme. There really is something about connecting with others that have lived through similar things that your future self wants to encourage you to consider. So like an example of that might be if you've just survived something really challenging, that there are groups of other survivors. There are sort of, it doesn't have to be in like a support group of some time, but there's something about connecting and reaching out and not feeling so alone with things, not feeling like you're the only one in the world that has faced these particular circumstances. Your future self wants you to know that's not the case, and there's a lot to be potentially gained from opening yourself up and communicating your story to others that you know have lived through similar things. So that's coming through, and funny because we were talking about a collapsed boat, and then we have these 3 characters in boats. The Protector, I think I think you, pile 3, may have felt at times in your life as if you were very unprotected, and as if you were under attack from someone or something, and your future self wants you to give up the fight. That's interesting. Whatever this was, it's almost like the thing itself has passed, like the ship sank. There was some kind of, something went down, but it's as if this conflict is still ongoing within you. Pile 3, like you're still sort of fighting a kind of battle as if you were still on this ship that was sinking. Your future self wants you to free yourself from that fight, from that conflict, because you are no longer in harm's way, and your future self wants to convey that to you very clearly. That you are protected now, that you are protected both by forces beyond your awareness, but you are also very capable of protecting yourself. But you have to, a way of protecting yourself is protecting yourself from your own inner patterns, behavior, your own thoughts. And there is something about, you know what, and this is quite specific and kind of heavy, and some of you may have experienced or had some kind of symptoms of PTSD. That's something that's coming through to me, in which case this idea of sort of recurring scenarios of revisiting things as if you're still in them, that's a typical symptom of trauma, that we experience the trauma as if we're still there. Your future self is asking you to seek help for this, and support, and to know that you are protected now, and that whatever's going on in your own mind, you are safe. The storm has passed. You are on safe ground. You are not drowning. Your future self is urging you to seek support and help. So if that's you, I also urge you, if you're experiencing anything like that, any kind of symptoms of trauma, that it's like you're in a flashback or something, there is support out there. There are some, I have linked in the description box like a link to Mind UK if you're in UK, but of course there are resources everywhere. I also personally recommend EMDR if you're resonating with this, EMDR therapy, which is a specific therapy for trauma symptoms. But yeah, we're just adding that. But let's, of course this is not going to apply to everyone, but I did want to slip that in. Let's move on with the reading. So we have Oracle here. I'm really seeing this sort of storm. I'm seeing this almost like lightning and rain, and again it's like there's something about memories here and struggling with memories, and clouds and confusions. Your future self wants you to know that not everything is as it seems, and you do have a tendency at times, Pile 3, to make things a little harder for yourself, or to imagine the worst and things like this. Your future self is urging you to be more clear-headed, and I think it also has to do with future projections. You may be someone that often seeks advice. You may be someone that watches a lot of videos like this, so oracle, divination and things like that. And a message that's coming through is that it's very important to, and I concur with this, that it's very important to exercise discernment when you're watching anything like this, because they're general reads, and not everything is for everyone. But sometimes doing it in a very selective and careful way, and like I said at the beginning, like I'm always grateful that you're choosing to spend this time with me, because there are so many readers out there, right? But it is important, like my intention here is always to provide guidance and clarity and a space where you can feel seen. It isn't to prophesize or tell you what to do or anything like that. But there's something about looking, and maybe it's YouTube, but it could be anything, right? Perhaps you read for yourself, and reading for yourself is always a little bit of a minefield. It's just relying too much on certain things because there's so much uncertainty around you, Pole 3, but it can actually create a lot of confusion. And your future self is showing you like this motif of the water, right, has been coming through, and underneath this storm there's this calm seas. Your future self wants you to know that you are safer than you think, that the things around you are calmer than you think, and that you need to tune out a lot of these tendencies to kind of create fears that aren't grounded in reality. Because if you've experienced difficult things, I do think that you're out of that zone. You're out of this danger zone now, and the seas are calm, and though you may have certain fears that they're not, your future self is telling you that you are okay, you are safe. And to go back to the start of this reading, your future self almost had a slightly bragging kind of vibe about what good situation they were in. So, and I thought, well, okay, I suppose that's something for you to know, but maybe that's the reason for that. Your future self wants you to know just how well they're doing. Like, they're doing really well. They're sort of surrounded by this lovely building with trees and this crown, and they are protected, they are guarded. So if you're struggling with fear, know that there isn't anything to fear. Let's have a look at this cat, pile 3. I'm a big cat person. Always happy to see a cat. Speak your truth. Have strength, faith, and conviction in your voice. It has never been more needed. Black cat, though. Black cat can be a superstitious thing, right? I do think sometimes, pile 3, you can let certain superstitions, or it seem you are very interested in things like oracles and divination, that sometimes these superstitions and indulging in certain superstitions is kind of anxiety. It can feed your anxiety. So if every time a black cat crosses your path you're like, I'm doomed, or what else, like you walk under a ladder or something stupid like that, it's all connected to anxiety, which can be connected to sort of these buried fears that might have to do with old trauma. Your future self just really, really wants to draw your attention to certain thinking patterns and tendencies that you have to sort of create tension that doesn't need to be there, and to focus on these calm waters, because I think a lot of these things are in your head, pile 3, and your future self really is urging you to kind of work on these things. So the 10th house, you know, the 10th of the house, the cusp of the 10th house is known as the midheaven, and the midheaven is sort of the highest point of the chart, and it represents our worldly successes, and it's really the career house, the 10th house. So it says ambition here on this card. I was feeling that your future self is sort of like, your future self is in a good place, and you, pile 3, may have big ambitions and big dreams, but you may have felt that certain things that have happened in your life have sort of caused a wedge between you and achieving these dreams. Your future self really wants to direct your focus back to what those dreams and ambitions were. If some of them you've sort of put aside or put on pause, or you have certain fears and concerns or doubts about whether that is, your future self wants you to know that there is a huge potential there that is just waiting to be fulfilled. It's waiting to be claimed, but it's as if your focus maybe is slightly elsewhere. Maybe you do know what you want, or you have certain ideas around work and the way you'd like to see your career or your work life going, but it's as if all of this other stuff has gotten in the way that you've had to deal with. Your future self wants to redirect your focus, and if you are finding that you're struggling with anxiety, with certain just like superstitious thoughts and all of this stuff, then know that a way of dealing with that is in focusing, working. 10th house is Capricorn's house, so it's all about putting in the work and being quite self-disciplined. This is what your future self wants you to know. You're very capable of achieving the things that you want, but you have to put the work in, and you have to be more disciplined with yourself, especially when it comes to the way you're thinking. The Knight of Wands. This red is... Yeah, I mean, red is the color of the root chakra, so getting grounded, of course, if you're experiencing some kind of anxiety, being very connected to the roots, so just to the earth, just getting out in nature, maybe just like getting your bare feet in the soil and things like that are really helpful. But one thing I'm picking up here, because the Knight of Swords is a very fast-moving knight and a very energetic and passionate and creative knight, your future self is really, really urging you to take action towards something, and I think to this 10th house, to your ambitions and goals. Your future self doesn't want you to miss out on anything because of your worries and your fears and anxieties, because they know what you're capable of. And they're urging you to take action on certain things and to get in touch with your creative flair, you know, with your, just this active, passionate side of yourself, your passion, to figure out what's lighting you up at the moment, what's interesting you, and to go after things. There is a little sense of being held in place at the moment, and your future self wants you to move, to you know, wants to light a spark under you, but also wants to reassure you that, again, there's nothing to fear, but also if you get moving, you'll be surprised how quickly you find you're looking at a very different kind of life, how quickly your life changes if you're able to just think slightly differently about the future, get your head out of the past, learn to get on top of certain thinking patterns. But your future self really wants you to move. For those of you, if you have something in your mind or an idea that you had been looking to pursue, your future self really, really wants to encourage you to just go for it. That's what the Knight of Wands does. The Knight of Wands doesn't hang around deliberating. They just do and go for it. Attachment. I think your future self wants you to know how much you have to offer, and how much, in fact, that those things, those gifts, have come from difficult experiences, and that you shouldn't be afraid to share them. With this Three of Lotuses card, we were talking about connecting with people that have had similar experiences, but I'm sensing sort of an inner conflict with this. I lost my voice again. That happened when I was putting down one of these cards. There's an inner conflict that has to do with speaking on something, and that came out with the cat card too, about your voice. You may be afraid to share certain painful experiences, and that's understandable. But I think you will gain a lot from doing so, from speaking on things, from not completely, because it's like you're holding something inside, and you'll think, Pile 3, you may experience a great sense of release and relief and unburdening from just speaking something. Your future self wants you to understand. Your future self knows why you feel the way you feel and thinks it's legitimate, but your future self is being represented by the Queen of Swords, and the Queen of Swords has a very developed intellect and way of expressing herself, and there's a lot that I think you haven't yet expressed that you shouldn't be afraid to express. And your future self is encouraging you to go there, to explore this relationship you have to your own voice, and particularly sharing your own story, because I do think it's a story worth telling. I mean, we all have stories, and all of our stories are worth telling, but your future self really wants you to kind of stand in that story and be unafraid of it. The Nine of Cups here. Hey Pile 3, apologies for that glitch. I think the video probably just jumped there because I'm going to have to, I had a bit of a technical failure. I'm going to have to kind of merge these videos, but yeah, I'm here. And we were talking about the Nine of Cups before I was very rudely interrupted by my phone. Pile 3, your future self wants you to know, I mean, this Nine of Cups, the Nine of Cups is a card about getting what you want, right? The cat that got the cream, wish fulfillment. Your future self wants you to know that your dreams are absolutely possible. Look at the way this pyramid is sort of reaching up to this Queen of Swords, this sort of future life. Your ambitions, your dreams, anything that you have on your mind, pile 3, your future self wants you to know that that's all waiting. It's waiting for you to sort of create it. The only thing that's sort of blocking this is it's like the way that this person, this card, has her hands behind her back. There is something here about holding things in, or hiding things, or concealing them, or wanting to. It's as if the very parts of yourself you think that should be hidden. Your future self wants you to know those are the very same things that are the things that should most be shared. You know, it's as if there's this story that you're carrying. Like we all have our story. There's something about your story that your future self wants you to know. This is a story that should be shared, should be known, and there is nothing shameful or wrong about it. That you will feel much more connected to yourself and to others if you allow yourself to share those parts of yourselves that you've sort of perhaps decided, pile 3, that should be sort of hidden from view. And with the Sun card right next to the Nine of Cups cards, it's like you may not have experienced a lot of joy in your life, pile 3. It's like you may not have had a good run for very long. You know, we all have our happier, sadder times, but it's like perhaps maybe you've had some tougher times than most. Your future self knows how it feels to sort of sit in the sun, to feel like lights are shining on them, to feel this sense of joy and ease, and they want you to know that this is possible for you, that this is waiting for you, that there is a lot of happiness that is in store for you. But again, I'm sort of being drawn over here, this being taking action towards your dreams, your ambitions, not allowing the past and any negative thought patterns or behaviors to stand in your way, because there's so much that's waiting for you. There's so much to be gained from showing the world who you are. Like a couple of times just during this reading I had a weird thing with my throat, and I do think there's something, and it shows up here on this cat card, about having strength, faith and conviction in your voice. It is needed. It's like there's something about what you've been through, pile 3, that others would benefit who have been through similar things, and you have a unique ability, whatever it is, to speak on it. But it's as if you're just at times losing yourself in certain anxieties and fears that are not real. Your future self really, really wants you to speak on your experiences. I mean, the Queen of Swords is classically like someone that's like been through a lot, right? She's seen stuff, she's learned the hard way. And I think you've seen stuff, pile 3, and I think you have a tale to tell, and your future self wants to urge you to tell it. Let's look at the 5 of Swords here, because this is no one's favorite card, but the person on this card is wounded, but interestingly they're alone. And in the 5 of Swords, it usually depicts a battle of some sort, right? There is usually someone inflicting damage on someone else. In this depiction, this person is sort of alone with their wounds. Your future self really, really wants you to understand that these wounds that feel so isolating, they don't have to be. To go back to this 3 of Lotuses, 3 of Cups energy, your future self wants you to connect through this wound. This wound, as isolating as it seems, could actually be turned on its head as a point of connection with others. So allowing that to happen. you know, how that might look will be different for each, but there's something about this card, there's a real isolation there. And again, there's hands behind her back, which is true in this nine of cups. There's something that is hidden, or there's something, it's like your beliefs are restricting you from using your hands, using your own power. Your future self wants you to free yourself, that this restriction is really something that is self-imposed, that it shouldn't be there, that it doesn't need to be there. Your future self wants you to know that they are not restricted in this way, that you will not always feel this way, but you have to free yourself. Let's look at this cross, because the cross in the Lenormand also, you know, speaks of burdens, right? You know, our cross to bear. Interesting, like there's a very small figure here that's walking up to this cross, which is sort of, it's as if this burden to bear at times feels so much bigger than you. Pile 3. And there's the reflection of it in this desert. It's just this overall sense of you, Pile 3, sometimes just getting so lost in the past, and that being a very solitary thing for you. Your future self is urging you to connect with others, to share with others. I know I'm repeating myself a bit, but it's almost like there's this cross in the sand, right? But look how big this space is, and how this figure in the sand could really walk away or walk around it. It's as if this figure is just sort of there, standing, watching it, when there's all this space around them that I think they're not seeing. There's this huge sun rising beside them, but they're looking at this cross, this burden that they have had to bear. Your future self wants you to take a broader perspective and understand that this, whatever it is, this burden, it doesn't define your life, that there are other experiences waiting to unfold for you, but you have to walk away. You have to let this not be the center of your focus, and you have to find ways and reach out for, you know, for support to find a way of healing. It doesn't have to be the center of your everything, and even if there's something about this burden, or you feel somehow sentenced in some way, it could be, for some of you, it may have to do with certain diagnoses, like mental health diagnoses, so that could be true for some. It doesn't have to define you. It's just a pattern. It's just recognize a pattern, so it's easier for you to receive help. It's not you. Having a clear self-perception, a sense of who you are, distinct and independent of certain circumstances, that are things that have happened to you, is really vital. And your future self wants you to know that there are many more things that will happen in your life, that this is just going to be like a thing that happened in a sequence. Like right now it might feel like the thing that happened, the only thing that ever happened. Your future self is telling you that many, many, many things will happen. Positive things will happen. So there's just like, there are events along in your life. It doesn't have to seem so large, like it's sort of towering over everything. Even if it seems that way now, it won't seem that way forever. We have the build card here, which is very, again, a very active, and there was that Capricorn vibe we were picking up with the 10th house of needing to put effort and self-discipline. Again, your future self is urging you to build something, to take your ideas seriously, and know that you have the follow through, know that you can achieve, because there is so much, you have so much to offer here. I think you are very naturally ambitious, Pile 2, or just someone that has high ideals and dreams and ideas about how life could be. Your future self wants you to reconnect with those ideas and start to build, start to put in concrete effort, whatever it is, just if it's a little bit a day, just go for it. And even if it feels overwhelming right now, but just starting off with just 10 minutes a day, then 20 minutes a day, half an hour, something like that. Build over time. If you feel like you are low on energy, if you feel consumed, if you still feel in the process, like right in the thick of healing, then start slowly. But start building a discipline. It will pay off. Your future self is assuring you that the efforts that you put in, they will bear fruit. It's guaranteed. But you have to have that discipline, which is a very kind of Queen of Swords thing to say, because I suppose I would say also be gentle with yourself, also be kind to yourself, especially if you've been through a lot. But this Queen of Swords future you is I think much more, I think she knows how much you have to gain from just being very self-discipline isn't an easy thing to learn. I'm a Taurus, we can be a bit lazy sometimes. Sorry, I mean, I also have some Capricorn placements, so that's not really the case, but there is a part of me for sure that just wants to kind of like take a very long bath every day. But yeah. The Queen of Swords is a very, like, we're going to do it like this, we're going to do it that way, but the Queen of Swords is seeing things here that you're not seeing about yourself. That sharpness may be a quality that you have that you've really at the moment directing towards yourself, and that in your own mind, like a tendency to have very sharp thoughts, but it can also be used to your advantage. You know, your swords can be used to attack yourself, but they can also be used to kind of like clear your path. They can be used to sort of they can be used for multiple different things, right? And your future self wants you to know that these same tendencies that you feel like are dragging you down could also be doing the opposite. What an interesting read. I'm sorry that it cut out there in the middle, Pile 3, sorry about that, but I think a lot of interesting stuff came through here. It's certainly been interesting for me. See if there's any last messages here. I am just very drawn to this red Nine of Wands, and it's almost like this character in the Knight of Wands is sort of ready to fly, and she's ready to, she's at ease and at peace and confident. I do think that so many of you are sort of are giving yourself a hard time, Pile 3, and you're much more prepared and ready for change and progress and movement than you know. You may be quite self-critical. You may be turning these swords against yourself at the moment. You may feel quite isolated, but there is a message here coming through from your future self that you are more ready than you know, and you are more developed than you know. But they really want you to shift between phases. Like, you've been in a certain phase and they really want you to progress onto the next, and that you're ready for that, from this more broad view. You are ready for change and to move out of this more difficult mindset. It's time. So I do hope that this has been helpful for you, Pile 3. Yeah, if it did resonate, do let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys, and I want to thank my decks. This is something I love these decks, and each of them have their own special thing to contribute. So thank you to the decks, and thank you to you guys for watching, and I hope to read again for you soon. So take care, guys. Bye. Hey, Pile 4, and welcome to your reading. You picked the Amethyst, and today we are looking for advice from your future self, so your older and wiser self. This is a little bit of a different reading that I've done before, but so far these spreads have been very interesting. Let's have a look, Pile 4, what cards you have. We have the 3 of Coins, we have the 7 of Embers, Ever, or Ether, I guess, in reverse. We have the Cosmic Tree, and Nothing in reverse. Interesting card. The 10 of Swords, Abundance, the 9 of Wands, we have Bloom, the Ace of Swords, your animal, totem here is the owl. We also have enjoy. The astrological influence here is the 12th house and child in the Lenormand. Okay, interesting. Let me just check this frame that you can see everything. Let's get into this pile 4. The 3 of Coins. So this is all about collaboration and learning and things coming together, and I think that's the overall message that your future self has for you initially, is things will come together. Things are coming together, but it's like this arch here. It's like there's a climbing. You know, you may feel, pile 4, that you have had to climb quite a tall ladder, or you have for some time been sort of working towards something and wondering if you'd ever get to where you're going, and your future self is here to tell you that you will. That there is success on the horizon, and it has to do with just your efforts coming together in a really positive way. And with the 3 of Coins, it can often include other people. It can often include collaboration, or just a work, like a joint effort between different people. Your future self wants you to know, because I said there's this sort of hilly mountain plains here on this card as well, and there is a sense of perhaps you feel, pile 4, that you've been sort of stuck in the same state for a while, and you're wondering if things were ever going to change. It's like you've been working at something, and wondering, is this all for nothing? Your future self is saying, hell no. No, it's not for nothing, pile 4. You know, whatever this is, whatever it is for you, it will be different for those that pick this pile, but whatever that looks like for you, whatever it is you've been working towards, it does seem to be the center of your focus, which is why I think it's coming through so strongly, that your future self wants to reassure you that your efforts will pay off, and they will pay off sort of in the way that you wished, in sort of the way that you would have most wanted. Let's have a look at this ether, right, card. So there is something about sort of having or getting or receiving. So you've perhaps, there's this sense of perhaps not getting your due. I think your future self wants you to refocus slightly less on sort of receiving and getting, but on what you have to give, on the work itself. So often we're sort of working towards a result, we focus entirely on the result rather than the process. I think your future self may have seen the fruit of your efforts and your successes, and is coming to tell you that actually the process may have been, it's like you're so focused on the end goal, right, on how it might feel to succeed at something, that you don't, that everything in the process and the journey uphill just seems like about getting there. It's a transitionary phase, and your future self wants to tell you that it's not really like that. That there has to be, that you might find that when you have in the state of receiving, that there's something about that state of unknown that, as frustrating as it seemed at the time, there was meaning in the process, in the journey, of course, if you will. Like it's the journey that counts. That, I think, is what your future self wants to express, that while they can reassure you of your future successes, they want to understand that the space you're in right now also has so much to offer if you just know that things will work out, and that will allow you to connect so much more to the process of creating. Things are coming your way, pile 4, but it's like you're perceiving your current reality as like an interim period, or like in the moment before something happens, and that isn't what it is. Your future self wants to tell you, no, it's not like that. you know, what's happening to you now is not a period of waiting. This is your life and your reality. And there's magic there, and there's so much about this that you might actually end up feeling quite nostalgic about when you are on the other side, or you're more higher up this ladder, or whatever it is that you're focused on, Pile 4. Your future self is telling you, no, there's actually, your future self misses something about where you are now. So look around differently at your life, Pile 4. Look at it, look again. And this tendency to think we're always sort of waiting for life to happen. Life is happening for you, Pile 4, and that's what your future self wants to express to you. The 7 of Embers. This is an interesting depiction, because the 7 of Embers, that would be the 7 of Wands, so that's all about the kind of the sort of fighter, the warrior, that they're fighting or sort of defending something, right? But on this depiction, it's like there's a phoenix, and this phoenix is rising out of this book. There is the phoenix rising. You know, it may be Pile 4 that you are still feeling like you're in the ashes, or you're not quite this risen phoenix. Your future self is the phoenix, is the one that did rise out of this ash, and wherever you are, whether you're half up out of the ash, like whether you're still crawling around in the ash, your future self is reassuring you that this process that is happening to you, that you are rising out of uncomfortable circumstances. However, you know, again, they want you to kind of breathe in the moment that you are in, because it's almost as if there's this, it's like there's something you can't get back about the moment you're in, and it's not like, it's almost like, you know, back when you didn't have that much, and it's like you just didn't know what you had, and I don't want to imply, I don't think your future self is trying to imply that out on the horizon they're kind of wishing they could go back to a state of maybe having less or being less successful or something. It's just that, you know, everything also comes, I do think your future self probably has much more pressure and responsibility than you have, and that there's freedom, like there's a freedom of not being beholden to, like a lack of, not being at that point where you're successful or feel like you've achieved something. It also comes with certain restrictions. There is a certain freedom to the state that you're in, and a kind of magic to it that you're not realizing. I think that's what your future self is trying to say. But this 7 of the Embers, this phoenix is rising out of a book. For many of you are, I think, focused on creative pursuits, projects, whatever it is. For some of you, you may have written a book or something like this, and it's like this phoenix is rising from these flames from this book. So if it's something, for those of you, if you are writers, know that there is this kind of rising that is in store for you, that your future self is reassuring you about. The cosmic tree, how interesting. I think your future self wants to remind you not to neglect your healing as you move into a different stage of life. I do think a lot of you that pick this pile are almost on the cusp of, because some of the piles have been in much more difficult stages of life, and their future self has really had to kind of reassure them that everything is going to be okay. It's interesting because this pile is a bit different. Your future self is saying, hey, look, actually I envy you in a way. Not that things for the future self are bad, I don't want to suggest that, but that is it's like things have gone the way you planned for the future self. That's the feeling I have. But the future self is sort of trying to get you to see that actually where you are has its things to offer that you don't get on the other side of perhaps winning something that you had wanted. So the future self wants you, your future self wants you to not neglect your healing. I think you have come a long way, Pile 4. You have grown a lot. You have developed and sort of had a lot of inner development. Your future self doesn't want you to neglect that as you move forward and as things start to come together in interesting ways. Your future self wants you to keep checking in with where you are, with where you've been. They don't want you to get to this point, if something goes well, that it means you're all good and you're all healed and you don't need any more focus. If there was some kind of healing practice, or there was something that you were interested in, your future self is telling you that you have a lot to gain from pursuing things. If there was something on your mind, I'm not sure, that might mean something to some of you. If you had a curiosity and it had to do with healing, plant medicine is coming to my mind for some reason. Your future self is sort of giving you the thumbs up that there may be something there. So this is curious. We have nothing in reverse. Okay, let's look at this nothing. So there's a bit of a void there. You know what I'm feeling? It's funny because I almost feel like you guys have felt for a while a little as if life has been a little empty or a little bit boring, let's say, or it's just like not much has been happening. The inbox has been a little slow, like there's not been a lot of excitement, things have not been coming through, there's just an overall sense of blankness, as if things are a bit like empty, like there's not much going on, right? This is changing. This is changing, and your future self is wanting you to know, again, inhale this moment, because it's almost like there's this beautiful chaos that's coming your way that you're not seeing. And you may actually feel a certain weird nostalgia about those days where you didn't have a whole lot going on and you could just kind of veg out and watch Netflix or whatever it is you're watching, because I do think your future self is quite busy. The sense that your future self has a lot to do. It doesn't mean, like, your future self has everything that I think you are working to, and more as well. Has a lot of things that they have, a lot of responsibilities, but these are things that you want. But they're saying there was those days when you weren't doing too much. Pile 4. Well, you were a little bit bored and you spent maybe a bit too much time on YouTube watching readings, stuff like that. Your future self doesn't have that kind of time. So be aware of that in this lull, and it may have felt like a long lull, but it is changing, and your future self wants you to know, that. So yeah, the Ten of Swords isn't, it's not my favorite card. I'm sure it's not yours, and right in the middle of the reading, but this is not a very intimidating Ten of Swords, I guess, if you're not intimidated by snakes, which personally I love snakes, but the way that this figure is, I also love this deck. This is sort of like my happy tarot deck, the She-Wolf. It just has such a good vibe. I love working with this deck. There's such a softness to it, but there's, even on the Ten of Swords, we have this reclining figure that actually seems pretty happy in this state of being stabbed by all these swords, as traditionally is the case here. But this is a bit different, right? You have been through a lot, Pile 4. You have had tough life experiences. Many, I mean, all of the things that have, the spreads that I've read today, include, like, we've had our hardships, right? And you're no different, Pile 4. But it's almost like the way she's reclining here is that she's somehow at ease with the past and somehow almost relaxed into these things that happened. These swords on this card are actually snakes, and are there 10 of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There isn't, but okay. And snakes are all about regeneration, right? About shedding skin. It's as if whatever went wrong for you, you've managed to, or you're in the process of, and you certainly will, find a way to make it work for you. Like, actually to find these silver linings and the benefits of perhaps going through things. It's like you're somehow at ease with your own pain, with whatever went wrong, with whatever past pain you might have been carrying, pile 4. It's like you're at ease with that. And maybe some of you are already starting to feel this, but your future self wants you to know that this feeling is you're only going to become more comfortable with your own story and more almost relaxed, or it's like you've sort of like relaxed into who you are, like with everything that comes with it. So accepting yourself with all of your pain and wounds too. It's such an interesting 10 of Swords. Let's go and have a look at this owl over here. The owl totem. Slight, detach your emotions from situations that you cannot control. Yeah, again, your future self wants to draw your attention to your intense focus on outcome rather than the process. They want you to find more joy and satisfaction in the nascent and becoming phases of things. And it's not just what's happening here or this change, it's in general. It's that tendency to think life is always about to start happening or it's happening elsewhere, to be more at ease in the present, and to be, your future self wants you to know that everything is being taken care of. They want you, there's something about sleep here too, they want you to try and figure out something with your sleeping patterns. You may have been sleeping badly or staying up a bit late, and they're suggesting that you try and get on top of that. They're also drawing my attention to there is still, as much of work that you have done, pile 4, there is still some kind of work in releasing some past pain. There's a sadness that I'm picking up from this owl that needs to be addressed or dealt with. I'm not experiencing it as a blockage in terms of other things that are happening around you and the positivity that was coming in for you. It's just there's these sort of side messages here about not neglecting healing and still working. You don't feel, it doesn't feel powerful like you're at rock bottom. Maybe you have been in the past, but that's not where you are now. But as you move further and further away from that, your future self again wants you to consider how far you've come, and also don't stop doing this work and taking care of yourself and sort of purging your feelings and all of these things. The 12th house is the astrological influence here, so this is Neptune's house, secrets, the 12th house. Yeah, some of you, of course, may be Pisces or have a strong 12th house. If you're not sure, you can always reach out to me. I do personal astrology readings, all that. The info is down in the description box. This is about unlocking something. Yeah, the 12th house. Some of you may have very kind of strong intuition, and also if you've been learning to work with your intuition lately, pile 4, your future self kind of wants to salute you for the ways you've been developing and also exploring your intuition. They're kind of proud of this, and they want you to know that it's a good thing, that you may have had questions or doubts about exploring that side of yourself, or you may have had some fears, but the way you're taking control in a way of this, because the 12th house is very kind of vast and encompassing, and it's just sort of like endless, like, beyond space-time. It's all about the intangible. You may have felt that, pile 4, about your own kind of intuitive gifts, and some of you may have kind of psychic gifts. But certain things you're doing now, your future self wants you to know that all of these things really help you to kind of be on top of them, rather than them sort of feeling like you are sort of a little overwhelmed by them. Some of you may have been feeling that, as if you didn't know how to sorry, I was holding a weird position, pile 4, and I'm just trying to free my leg. Some of you may have felt actually quite confused or a bit lost in your own depths at times, but you've been making changes or exploring things lately, and your future self wants to kind of applaud you for that and let you know that you've been making some really good moves. So this Nine of Wands, yeah, she's sort of hiding and looking out from her sort of this little fort that she's built around herself. It's like she's thinking, shall I head out? Shall I go out? Is it safe out there? Your future self wants you to know that it is. That if you've been slightly in hiding, but you're peeking out and thinking, shall I just maybe head out and, I don't know, go out, hang out somewhere, do something? Your future self wants you to know that you are safe to try things, and you don't have to be in this constant state of self-protection or guarding yourself. You're stronger than you know. You have built resilience over time. You do not have to feel like you constantly have to sort of wrap yourself in cotton wool or something like that. You know, the Ten of Swords is here. You may have, yes, been at a rock bottom, and it may have been a tough process, Pile 4, to really cool out of rock bottom. And because that memory is still kind of raw for you, it's like you don't want to do anything that might compromise the progress that you've made. It's like you don't want to kind of overextend yourself or get too ambitious. You're being very selective and careful about the ways you're putting yourself out there, but your future self wants you to know that you don't have to feel that way, that you should put yourself out there more. And yes, maybe things won't always work out the way you want, but you are more than capable of sort of handling things. You are more than capable of handling what comes up. Abundance, yeah. Oof. It's great, good to have the abundance next to the Ten of Swords, of course, but it's under this Phoenix, and this Phoenix was really giving me this feeling of sort of, yeah, you are rising from the ashes. You're really moving far away from the rock bottom you were in, and you're really rising high. Your future self is, again, I'm sort of applauding you because you've just been through so much, and there's so much coming to you that it's going to feel like, again, there's a busyness, and with this Nothing card, there's a sense of there's a lot coming in, and you might find that the speed of life changes quite quickly, and there's just a lot going in your life, on in your life, a lot of people around you, a lot of messages coming your way, things like that. Your future self just wants you to know that you can handle this in your stride, because you might feel a little bit imbalanced at first, because it's such a big change for where you've been in this state of nothing, kind of vegging out on Netflix or what have you, sort of in a state of waiting for something. Your life might start to look very different very quickly, Pile 4. Your future self is letting you know that you can handle it. So if you have any weird transitional feelings of just like, am I out of my depth? I don't know if I can do all this. Know that you can, and you will. That you can handle things. It's like you're going to have to kind of, the feeling I'm getting is that you're going to have to very quickly sort of develop some new skills in order to handle some things that are coming in for you. Like, it's like you're going to have to quickly, you're going to be thrown in the ring in some way as this Phoenix is like shooting out up into the sky. There might be a period of sort of disorientation, and that might bring with some self-doubt or not knowing if you can handle what's coming your way. Your future self is telling you that you will handle it, and they have handled it, and all will be good. You just have to ground yourself. Grounding yourself is really important. Maintaining any spiritual practices that you have developed to stay on top of things. Battery is jumping at me. There's nothing that you can't handle, Pile 4. You don't know your own strength too. You struggle at times, I think, Pile 4, to see yourself clearly, and your future self, I think, has more of a clear sense of who they are, and therefore who you are, and wants you to know just how incredibly strong you are, and just how great you are. They wish they wish you knew that. They wish you thought as well of themselves, of yourself, as you should. Like, it's funny because that's something that's easy enough to say about your past self. it's hard to say about yourself in the present, isn't it? To sort of compliment yourself. But your future self is complimenting you and letting you know just how great you are. Bloom. Yeah, you guys that picked pole 4 are really in an amazing stage of your life where things are just coming together. You may not feel it yet, but it's on its way. Again, what's coming through to me, because like there's the word bloom, but there's something about this expression on this character's face, is that, and as your future self sort of said, it's like we have these expectations about what success might feel like, and that it will be the answer to all our self-doubts, and if we just get this, you know, that we'll be filled up by it. Your future self is sort of, again, giving you a little advice about what's to come, and saying that actually as you bloom, there may be some fears that come with it about whether you're up to, you may simply feel overwhelmed at times and wondering whether you're up to the task, and there may be a part of you that wants to kind of run away or withdraw from this, and your future self is urging you to just relax and know that there's nothing that you can't handle. You can handle this. This is interesting. It's almost like, yeah, the speed of life is going to change and a lot is going to be coming at you. We have the Ace of Swords here. Interesting Ace of Swords. You see here, this, it's like she's dancing with this sword. The Ace of Swords is a card of, you know, like, I always think of the Ace of Swords as just like the truth of the matter. Slicing through any doubts, but of course the swords are all about the intellect and the mind, and it's the way that she's dancing with it. Your future self really wants to let you know and tell you to have confidence in your intellect. This may be something that you have fears or insecurities about, or worries. Your future self wants you to just almost use your mind like this beautiful tool, to dance with it, to just let it do what it naturally does. Don't worry about it. Don't try and mold things into another way, or think you should say things in a different way, or don't judge yourself harshly. Have confidence in your own words and your own thoughts. I love this depiction. It's like, learn how to dance with your own mind. Speak, yeah, and speak what's on your mind. I think a lot of you are very elegant speakers and have a very high intellect, but I think you maybe don't realize how intelligent you are, and your future self is reassuring you. There's an elegance, so there's some kind of beauty to the way that you use your mind. Do not doubt yourself. Let's have a look at this Enjoy card. What a nice card. I think your future self does want you to have more fun, or to find ways to have fun and to relax. Relaxation is very important. Again, this happened in another group. Nutrition is coming through to me. Your future self wants you to be mindful of the way you eat, of eating patterns, of any stress, eating entanglements, comfort eating, things like that, to be very aware and mindful of what you're putting into your body and caring for your body. It's your future self that has to has to deal with the consequences, perhaps, of which is why that message maybe came through more than once. But they want you to enjoy and what you eat, and they want you to enjoy life in general, and to take more pleasure in things and savor things and allow yourself this relaxation time. Child, interesting. So there's a couple of things that came through to me here. One is that there was something that came up about inner work and healing work that you had been doing, and that may have had a lot to do with the inner child work. Your future self is telling you that isn't quite done. There's still attention that needs to be given there, and especially if your life suddenly is speeding up and you have much less time, to make sure you still are giving time to this, that there's just still work to be done, and that work may be ongoing. It's like perhaps it will be less intense, but you still need to give this time. There's something else here that it won't apply to all, so take or leave, but there's something about the way you care for your body and nourish yourself, and also for those of you that cared about things like, parenthood, fertility, all of that, that it's really important that you take your health seriously, and your the way you eat, just the way you nourish your body, and to be on good terms with your body and care for your body. These things will affect, I don't want to get too heavy here, or freak anyone out. It's not like that, and it won't apply to everyone, but of course there's connections between things like fertility and of course just the way we treat our body in general, and your future self is not giving you a major warning, it's just drawing your attention there as something that needs more care. So there's a dual message there, but let me see if there's anything else that I can pick up here for you guys, because this is a really feel good, despite when I was laying these cards out, so there was some difficult, having the Ten of Swords in the center of the reading but there's this Ten of Swords has quite a different vibe. I'm drawn to this Nine of Wands. Let's see if she has anything else to offer. It's funny, I'm drawn to her red cheeks, and that's bringing me embarrassment. It's interesting, there is something about the body coming through, about the way you feel about your body and wanting to hide your body or not share your body. Your future self is telling you life is too short for some of your smaller insecurities, that they don't matter, that they're just more, you might fixate on certain things, for instance, about your body, but there are things other people wouldn't even register. So giving them too much attention, it's just it's not worth it. It's almost as if you have this embarrassment about things about yourself. I think your future self is really urging you to take better care of your body in general, and to learn to love your body. You should love your body, rather than hide it. There's nothing to be ashamed about your body, and your future self wants you to explore the orange on these wands, often, the sacral has to do with sexuality, so to learn to flow with your body in the same way that in this Ace of Swords she's flowing and dancing with her own mind. You may be somebody that's very connected to the mind space but slightly disconnected from your body, pile 4, and your future self just wants you to be aware of things related to how you care for your body. And there's no need to feel ashamed of your body in any way. It's beautiful, as it is. And a lot of your insecurities are things that are just not things that anyone else would ever blink at. So there was that message. Let me just see if there's anything else here. I think that's it, pile 4. I hope this has been meaningful. It's definitely been interesting for me, and I just, if this resonated, please do let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys, and it's really a pleasure to read for you, and I'm really grateful that you decided to sort of stop by and spend this time with me, and I hope to see you guys next time. Take care.